Welcome back, guys. Cal Clash Fitness. Now, I appreciate it's been a while, but you guys never doubted that I'd be back, did you? Now, we're here today to talk about 6 important rules that you must follow in order to become a better runner. Whether you're a beginner or whether you're a pro, you need to follow these 6 simple tips in order to get the best out of your running ability. And normally, some people focus on 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 of them, but to get the full running experience, you need to get in the full 6 tips, okay? Now, if you're a subscriber and you're wondering where I've been, what I'm focusing on in the future, yada yada yada, stick around to the end of the video, we'll talk a bit more about that. But let's put things in context. This time last year, I'd just come back out of my retirement from what I saw as, being out of competitive running, competitive triathlon, and I was just building myself back up. Since then, this year, my first season back, I qualified for representing Team GB for sprint distance triathlon. I completed my first Ironman triathlon and generally had a good time in the sun. We had a glorious summer as well. So a very successful year. We'll talk more about it, like I say, at the end of the video. But without further ado, let's get on with tip number 1. Right then, tip number 1, the first thing to focus on, whether you're a new runner or whatever, getting it into your program, into your running program in order to improve is speed. You need to focus on speed. And whether this is an example of you now or previously or someone that you know, everybody has either done this or knows somebody that has done this. You focus on mileage, right? So you start running, you get to 5k or you do your first mile, and then you build up to your first 2 miles, 3 miles, you get your first 5k under your belt. And then it's working your way up to 10k, half marathon, and then you complete your marathon. And it's all about distance and gradually building up your distance, right? And obviously that's right, you want to gradually build up your distance, but what happens then, that focus of distance is speed, is totally neglected. Slow down your distance training and focus on speed. You need to fold speed in with that endurance, right? So you need to make sure that you're pumping the speed. Get to 5k, and then instead of saying, right, next goal is to get to 10k, your next goal after getting to 5k is to get a sub whatever 5k and knock that time down. And in doing so, what you'll notice is your distance builds up anyway, right? So once you're at 5k, focus on a 5k plan to get that time down. And what that will involve is slightly longer runs anyway. Before you know it, you've got a fast 5k and you're already capable of doing a 10k. Do the same thing when you get to 10k, do the same thing when you get to half marathon, do the same thing when you get to marathon. And even if you're already at marathon training level for distance, make sure you're building in speed. It's not just about crossing the finishing line. If you've already done it before, or this is your first one, or whatever, have a goal in mind for speed and train for it and aim for it, and eventually you're going to hit it, right? Aim high, shoot for the stars, because we're not sheep. We don't just want to be grinding out mile after mile after mile. We want to be hitting it hardcore. And we want people to look around and say, wow, doesn't that guy or girl look fantastic crossing the finishing line with the guns out on display with a smashing time? On to tip number 2. Tip number 2, strength. And this is an iffy one for me because obviously I've come from a strength background and I still carry, even though I do my best to trim down and things like that, I still carry excess muscle, which is very difficult for me to drop. But strength is a key component of any running. Now for me, what I know I need to focus on more is my core strength. Whenever I work on my core strength, my stomach muscles, all around my core, my running just becomes way more efficient, way quicker, and I'm able to run further, all right? So everything really, that power, that running power is generated from your core. Your ability to stay upright, your ability to have that forward lean, your ability to generate power from the hips and from your core, and to breathe and control your breathing, So whenever I train core specifically, my running times, my distances, everything gets better and better and better, right? And that's one of the key ways that I qualified for Team GB this year, was just by focusing on core. It made such a difference. It was unbelievable. It's something you need to try, and anyone that's been following my channel for a long time knows that core work for me is the most horrific thing to do. I don't enjoy it, but it's very important, right? So for me, I know my weakness in terms of strength is core strength, so I need to focus on that. But for anyone else, maybe it doesn't come from such a strength background as me, you need to make sure that your entire body is strong, right? So just like your core, you need strong legs, strong upper body. We're not going to focus on plans or what you need to do, but obviously you need to be hitting some squats, hitting some, you know, some weights within reason. You don't want to be building up some sort of pump muscles. Really, you don't want to be looking anything like me even. I'm a lot slighter than I look on video, but really you don't want any unnecessary muscle, unnecessary bulk, but what you do want is strength and power and your ability for your body to generate power, right? It's going to let you run further, faster, and it's also going to prevent injury in the long run. On to tip number 3. Alright then, tip number 3, suppleness, flexibility is very, very, very important, especially as you get older. You know, I'm getting older and older, I'm not getting any younger, nor is anybody watching this video, but even if you're a youngster in your teenage years, flexibility is so important. It's such a key component of your running schedule, your running training, your running life, alright? And I don't just mean, you know, dipping down, touching your toes and that's it, job done. Making sure you're warming up properly, adequately before a run, and then making sure you're stretching adequately and safely after your run and throughout the day to make sure your muscles are as supple as absolutely possible. Now, if you've seen my massage roller review, I'll leave the Amazon link, but it's about 15 quid. Honestly, it's the best thing you can ever get, 15 quid. Roll all your muscles, stretch them, get the blood flowing. Flexibility is the most important component, I think, that is neglected, and I'm guilty of it too. If I'm short on time, I'll bang out a run, I'll get back, jump in the shower, whatever, and I totally neglect flexibility. What that does, it basically tightens up your hamstrings, tightens up everything else. You'll end up getting an injury somewhere in your lower leg, and it's actually caused by some sort of, you know, tension in your upper body, ITB bands, all the rest of it. Any kind of tightness is just going to end up resulting in injury, or you're going to get out there for a run, it's due to be a speed run or something like that, you start running and you just feel so stiff you're unable to get in there. There's nothing better than getting out on a run and just feeling loose and just being able to open up and go for it, and that the only way you're going to do that is either by taking unnecessary rest periods because you haven't stretched, you haven't made the most of looking after your body and making sure that you're flexible, or you're going to be doing your yoga, your Pilates, your stretching, and just making sure that when you get out there you can make the most of every single run, and injury prevention is going to be at the forefront of that because your body is prepared and ready to go. Tip number 4, endurance. Now, as we touched on at the beginning, you've got speed and endurance, and they're in a careful balance, all right? So I touched on it. You don't just want to be building up your mileage over and over again without touching speed. And the same thing really with endurance. You're not going to be wanting to focus on 100 meters up to 5K if you're training for a marathon race, all right? So you need to get the balance of both. You need to get your body's ability to tick over in an aerobic way. Lovely, slow, long miles, making sure you're building up your endurance, because you know you can have a strong beating heart, but if your body's not accustomed and trained to run long, then that strong heart of yours isn't going to be able to carry you over the longer distances. So endurance, making sure you're hitting the mileage, making sure you are building the mileage up and getting it in a careful balance there with speed to make sure that you're juggling both in each hand, right? So speed for me is fun. I love speed, and when it gets to endurance stuff, I'm very guilty of, you know, not doing my long run or skipping my long run and going out and just absolutely mashing it with a sort of twisted grin on my face because I enjoy the speed work. But really, if I'm training for a marathon, which currently I am, then that's not going to be particularly helpful in the long run. What I need to make sure I do is I've got my speed sessions, I've got my endurance sessions, and I've got the sessions in between, and I'm working in some speed stuff with the endurance sessions. A brilliant way of resolving that, especially if you're like me and you're meathead and just love to run fast, is follow a plan. If the plan says run fast, run fast. If the plan says run slow and easy for long, then run slow, easy, long. Simple as that, but you can't neglect either one, speed or endurance. It's a very careful balance, and it's a careful balance that in my head I know that I need to get right, but in my heart I just want to go out there and mash it all the time, so I have to rein myself in and be sensible. On to tip number 5. Tip number 5, technique. How many times have we spoken about technique in this shed? Too many to count. But without technique, really you're going to go nowhere. You are not going to get the best running times that you are capable of if you don't get technique right. Okay, so you're working on speed, you're working on endurance, you're super flexible, you're strong, but your technique sucks, right? So you're overstriding, or you're heel striking, or you're all hunched over, whatever it might be. All of these technique no-nos, shuffle running, technique you need to nail. You're not going to run fast, you're not going to run far, or certainly you're not going to run as fast as you are capable of. You're not going to run as far as you are capable of physically if your technique sucks. So you need to get your technique right. There's plenty of Cal Clash videos out there if you want to look at your technique. If you haven't tried minimalist running yet, give that a go. Make sure your technique is on point. Make sure you're running with a technique that you're comfortable with, that you're happy with, and that allows you to run and hit all of your training sessions essentially and get the most out of all your training sessions. Because if your technique sucks, that's it, done, game over. You're not making the most out of your running. So essentially, for me anyway, anyone competitive, what is the point? You want to be making sure that you're nailing absolutely everything in order to get the most out of your running. Last tip. Right then, finally, tip number 6, mentality. Without this, switched on and plugged in, you're not going to get anything out of your training really, right? In order to run fast, you need to lock that mentality down and be ready to embrace the pain. And in order to run long, you need to make sure that you're in that mindset of just grinding out the miles. You might be getting hungry or thirsty or bored or whatever it might be. You just need to grind those miles out, right? You need to focus on making sure that you stretch, you massage roll, you recover properly. You get your yoga sessions in, whatever it might be. You need to lock yourself down to being strict. You get your strength sessions in, get your flexibility in, and work on your technique. But everything comes from up here. So you're going to be skipping sessions if you're mentally weak. You're not going to run fast enough if you're mentally weak. And on race day, when it gets hard and you need to drop the hammer, there's going to be a choice that you make when you start struggling, all right, and your competitors start catching up with you. There's a little choice and there's a switch. And some of you are just going to give up, fall back, and let people overtake. And the others of you are going to lock that mentality down, focus, and absolutely nail it. So when people start coming up behind you, boom, the hammer gets dropped and you start nailing it towards the finishing line like an absolute lunatic, and then the glory is all yours. The crowd is cheering you, the photographer's ready, you're there with your finishing line pose like this, running down the finishing line. That's all yours because you got that mentality to survive. Right? If you haven't got that mentality and you lose it at the final 6 miles of a marathon or the final 3 miles of a half marathon, then other people are going to be getting the glory down the red carpet over the finishing line, and you're going to be finished all dejected and dirgy like that. Nobody wants that. Get your mentality locked down, follow your plan, knuckle down, work hard, and you'll get it. All right? Now they're my tips for today. As I said, quick focus on what's coming up. I know that the Shed and the Steve Cal Clash haven't been on YouTube very regularly just lately, but we're coming back. So we got today's video, we've got plenty of running tip videos, we've got plenty of minimalist running videos, and we've got plenty of reviews lined up. I've got all organised now properly in this Trello board, which is the answer to all my unorganised mess of a brain and a life. So Trello is a lifesaver for me. I've got all my video ideas down in different different categories, and I've got my what's coming next and all that type of thing, so I know what to focus on, what's coming, and I can plan some content. I need to plan that around my sub 3 hour marathon plan that I'm starting for Brighton Marathon, which is in March, end of March, and then I've got Ironman again next year. As I mentioned, I qualified to represent Team GB for sprint triathlon. That's in Russia next year. It falls on the same day as Outlaw Ironman, so I've opted to go for Outlaw Ironman next year. So my 3 goals next year are to attempt the sub 3 hour marathon at Brighton, to complete the Outlaw Ironman, time TBC sub 11, it's a sub 11 goal, there we go, put it out there, and also to re-qualify to represent Team GB in the either sprint European Championships or the Olympic distance European Championships, or both. Not too sure yet. We'll lock that one down. At least one of them is getting qualified for. That is it for today, guys. If you're still watching this video around 15 minutes, leave a comment down below. Like, because that helps. It allows other people to find this content. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you want to hear from Steve Calclash video? Do you want more live chats, more Q&As? Is there something specific that you want me to address? A specific category you want me to talk about? Whatever. You let me know in the comments down below. I'll add it to my list and then I'll get it out there. You guys know what to do. I'll see you soon. Keep it rolling.